Is everything I've heard about this place really true? Is it a little architectural wonderland? Is it the throbbing, pulsing Miami of the Mediterranean? Can it really be one of the world's great LGBT capitals here in a region plagued by violence and living under a constant threat of war? I'm in Tel Aviv, but I'm also in a city that I've heard will surprise me. For more than 70 years at least, the news coming out of this region has been overwhelmingly negative. I'm going to look past the propaganda and the fancy city branding, and I'm going to meet passionate locals who will explain to me in no uncertain terms their urban reality. Tel Aviv. This is a tough one. Summing up the basics would take the entire show. So here's the condensed version of what sets this city apart and what makes this place so compelling. It was founded in 1909 by Jewish settlers, just north of the 4,000-year-old Palestinian city of Jaffa. At the time, however, Tel Aviv wasn't much to write home about. Fast forward to 1948. The creation of the new state of Israel triggered a massive exodus of the Arab population. And in 1950, Jaffa was annexed to Tel Aviv. The newcomer grew exponentially with the rise of the new nation, and things changed radically for the two cities forced to merge into one. The place quickly became the epicenter of a major political and cultural divide. Today, Tel Aviv's reputation as a laid-back and liberal party central in a hotbed of conflict seems surreal. Behind the open-mindedness lies a complex history that still shapes everyday life. And because of this, very few modern cities evoke division as much as Tel Aviv does. Which begs the question, how can Tel Avivians navigate the hardships that define their city? Where and how can they make it life-sized? Daring people from both sides of the divide are trying to answer these questions with creativity and boldness, together.
There is this dash between Tel Aviv and Jaffa. This dash is also a question mark. So do we want to maintain this kind of duality, these two places as two cities, or do we want to unite and sort of create a shared culture for Jews and Arabs, you know?
That is exactly what Omer Krieger hopes to achieve through his politically engaged performances and in his personal life. He was born in the affluent and predominantly Jewish North Tel Aviv, but he moved to Jaffa, where there are more mosques than synagogues.
So we're not just this kind of European island that's really intolerant, modernist architecture, you know, it's all this kind of narrative, but something richer. And this is the place where people from all around the country come to express themselves, to be free, to be who they are, you know. It's the largest city in Israel.
And we're at the Gay Community Center here in Tel Aviv. How much of this enthusiastic embracing of LGBT culture is real? Is there a lot of pink washing, or is it really also an authentic part of Tel Aviv's culture?
You know, Tel Aviv and Israel, they like to show themselves as, you know, tolerant places, which they may be, you know, and they are. I think it is overlooking some aspects that are more restrictive and repressive. The occupation of Palestine, so there are millions of people living under the Israeli regime with two parallel legal systems, you know, and military presence on their streets. That's, you know, like the horrible reality we're responsible for as Israeli citizens. And in Tel Aviv, from time to time, you see those helicopters going down to Gaza, you know, on the coast. And this is bubbling, you know, this is underneath, this is all, so this is kind of a source of tension that I think keeps, you know, the instruments tuned and keeps people kind of alert. The possibility of being dead, you know, is also like part of the story of this place, which can be very sunny, beautiful, young, dancing. That's another aspect, so which is kind of, I think, radicalizing the culture or making people like party even harder. Mm-hmm. Here there's a sense of urgency, I think, that people feel. And in order to stay here, you do have to choose.
Is Tel Aviv also a lighthouse, a beacon of hope for the country and the region?
Yeah, as the kind of maybe potential symbol for what it could be, connecting, you know, East and West, Arab and European cultures, I would say, being more inviting, you know, to migrants, to minorities, to people who don't find themselves elsewhere. Rather than becoming this fortress, I'd like to see a place more inclusive. Yeah, a lighthouse, you know, inviting the ships from the stormy sea to the shore.
I set off for the neighborhood of Nevershannon, far from the beaches and the glass towers. Fueled by an influx of Africans fleeing persecution in Sudan and Eritrea, the place has recently undergone a massive population boom. Nevershannon is now bursting at the seams. The people here are poor, that's for sure. But this is where Tel Aviv is rewriting its history, searching for change in the way citizens come together. The official population of this neighborhood is what, 5,000?
On paper, it's even less than 5,000.
Really?
But actually, there's about 45,000 people living here.
Wow.
In tiny divided apartments, 10, 15 people just sharing a room, and the landlords take by the bed. So it's actually the most expensive apartments in Tel Aviv are in this rundown area.
So you just like look at a building like that, and you probably have like, 10 people living in those small rooms up there. Robert Ungar, architect and designer, co-founded the Anya Collective. They focus on what is called social architecture. Its volunteers trigger small but innovative projects as tools to improve the existing urban infrastructure. They've been involved here in Nevershannon for years. And so, Robert, when we were driving here from downtown Tel Aviv and took a couple of turns, and wham, really, the whole scene changed for us. I mean, they call this area Little Africa, am I right?
Little Eritrea. So the border you crossed is Begin Street, and it's really a line, a big road that crosses between the north and the south, and once you cross it, you reach the illegitimate area, or Nevershannon neighborhood. It's a social line, it's an economical line. This neighborhood has always been the backyard of Tel Aviv. And in the last 10 years, these people coming from mostly Sudan and Eritrea. So these people came walking. Around 60,000 people arrived. Only 3 people got a refugee status.
3 out of 60,000.
Yeah. And the rest are living here. They can work, but they don't get any civil rights. They're not considered residents. They're not written anywhere. So they're called officially by government papers the infiltrators because they infiltrated the border illegally.
Oh, that's not a nice word.
And no.
Oh, man.
And that's the official name. It's considered one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Israel.
Okay.
People actually
Great.
don't come close to here. Women don't walk alone at night. But basically, it's mostly a lot of fear from the other.
Does the city here want to have a solution to this problem, and the state is stopping that, or are they all just putting their heads in the sand?
So let's put some order in this. The state basically is ignoring and doesn't look into these situations. And the city is not really doing anything clear. The mayor always says, it's not my problem, it's the state's problem. Under the radar, he does have some initiatives to help. It's unfortunately very little what the needs are. Because it's less than 5,000, there is no health clinic, there is no community center, there is no place for the elders. It's very, very dense, and the infrastructure obviously can't take it. In other places in Tel Aviv, you won't see huge amounts of garbage, rats, cockroaches, gas balloons on windows. It's even dangerous. There is no safety regulation. They just do basically what they want.
Freestyle.
Yeah.
But we're walking down this, it feels like the main street. I mean, it's amazing life and everything.
It's actually, I think, one of the most lively, happy streets. I mean, everyone's here.
Yeah.
Everyone except mainstream Israelis.
Okay, wait. That is a monster building.
That's the central bus station. This is just a tiny little part of it, but it actually goes 4 blocks.
Second largest bus station in the world after Mumbai.
It was built for 500,000 people a day. It's almost 7 times larger than what's actually needed.
The new central bus station, which is neither new nor central, was built in the early 90s. The 230,000 square meter bus terminal was earmarked as a commercial hub. But bad design and bad planning have left the station in an empty, run-down state. A monumental waste of space in an area with so little to spare. So, Robert and friends decided to start right here, in an abandoned entrance to the underused bus station, turning an urban development failure into something useful for the community. Urban chaos, architectural monstrosity, and you guys are kind of the link between the two.
So I think this is why we also chose to take this spot, because first of all, it's connecting to the street, and I think one of the main crimes of this building is that it just totally disconnected the neighborhood from itself. It was full of garbage. It was actually a pool of almost 2 meters of garbage.
Really?
Homeless people would sleep here. There was a heroin station here. This is Mel.
Oh.
She's the work manager for the planters.
We have a pomegranate tree to plant.
So where do you want it exactly? Here?
Right there, it's perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
For the Dream Boys, a hip-hop band from Sudan now trying to make Tel Aviv their home, the station is on its way to becoming a creative space, used for rehearsing and recording music. Hey, I'm Michael.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Hey.
Great to see you. That's soon our new song is gonna create, you know.
Awesome. Kind of wild, huh? In a bus station and you're just creating a studio, so it's badass. It's gonna be this entire space here?
Yeah, they're gonna put another wall
Like here? Okay.
all the way to the bathroom.
Using the resources to their fullest, this sound studio will double as an internet TV newsroom, broadcasting for both the Sudanese community in Israel and those who stayed behind.
You know, we have no any status in Israel, since we're going to speak in Hebrew, so they can to reflect the problems, the local problems, okay, and like, you know, to raise awareness really about, like, you know, what's happening to us.
Projects like this are incredibly important in cities all over the world. 40,000 lives insist on being lived here. It's only with dignity and respect that this neighborhood will really reach its true life-sized potential and become beautiful. It is wild to see how everything in Tel Aviv revolves around challenges of coexistence. Coexistence of people, of neighborhoods, of religions and beliefs, of old and new. Man, even the architecture doesn't seem to evolve in any kind of harmony.
This is like a marriage that should never happen, you know? They should not get together.
Well, welcome to the Middle East.
Gili Karjevsky is concerned with Tel Aviv's challenged architectural heritage. Yes, it is a wonder of Bauhaus and modernist architecture. But paradoxically, it is faced with an important housing problem and hasn't quite yet grasped how to reconcile the past and the present.
You're on Rochelle Boulevard now. This is the first boulevard of Tel Aviv. It is the home of many original buildings from the early days of the city. And now you see this kind of very interesting rhythm popping up, right? You have like this major tower and then this renovated little villa.
I mean, yeah, you can see the distance between old historic building and Glass Monster, literally, if you can get the camera in there, like it's like 20 centimeters.
They're actually connected. You can walk from the inside of the lobby into the old renovated house, which of course is just a facade. This is what architecture critics in Israel call a taxidermy. It's a stuffed animal. It looks alive on the outside, but it's completely dead on the inside.
right.
It's not being used. It's closed off to the public. It creates something on the street level that is very uninviting and kind of exclusive.
Because of city regulations, developers who want building permits have to preserve the facade of these heritage buildings. But there is no regulation for the interiors. And since it's not mandatory, developers usually don't invest money into renovating the interior. More often than not, they're just left empty. We move on to Newt Zedek, one of the oldest neighborhoods in Tel Aviv. I see life-size streets bustling with life, families, and commerce. And then I see this.
What on earth happened there?
Yeah. Welcome to the Newt Zedek Tower. If ever a tower was built here to create endless disputes and conflicts, it's this one. When the land was bought by the developer, the first plan that they applied for, the permit said 300% height over the regular plan.
Okay.
And then they applied again. And in the second time they applied, they got even further building rights. Half of the building has a 6-meter ceiling height, which basically is 2 floors for every floor. The permit was for 30-something floors, but the building is really 180 meters high, which is something like 40-something floors.
Right.
So it's a clever loophole. They were forced to create a path connecting Newt Zedek over the historical train lines, through the compound, which feels very, very private and protected, to the neighborhood of Florentine. So the idea is that this is a public street that we're walking on right now, but does it feel public to you?
No, as soon as you enter a space like this under a building like that, you feel like you're trespassing. Like just that's
Exactly.
how I feel.
It's also the site of the first train line that connected Jaffa and Jerusalem under
yeah,
the bridge
yeah.
where the parking is now. This site has so much to tell, but it will never tell it because the developer here is not forced by anyone to complete the renovation plan of the historical buildings around us. These houses are not connected to electricity, they're not connected to sewage, and in fact, if the public will ever use them, they will have to invest more money.
Oh, you could have like an awesome little, incubator space, a whole bunch of small young companies.
Yeah, you could have a gallery, a studio space. This place could be alive and bursting from people because there's families living on both sides of this site.
And it would create a hub, a connection between the two, yeah.
This is our past, not very far away, but like a recent past. And this is how we view the future. So we're building towards the future in like a manic, butch, super aggressive way. And we're not really taking care of what we're doing with our past. I'm taking you to a picnic.
A picnic?
A picnic that is also a form of protest. This looks like the picnic, and there is Naama.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, nice to meet you.
The municipality said to the developers, you want so much building rights, you need to give a gift to the city. The municipality asked the developer to build a public space. It's called POPS, Privately Owned Public Space. It's a space that is public, but is owned to the developers, and the people who live in the city have the right to use it.
Okay.
But the problem of this space that it's designed as a way that nobody really knows that it can really visit. And people in the city need to know that they can stop here and drink coffee. When I talked with the architects that designed those areas, they told me we designed it because we like that, because we didn't want that anyone would use it.
Yeah, that's a classic problem. Developers, we have to make public space, so they make it, but the people living here don't want people to skateboard or to sit on benches. It's crazy.
It just hurt the urban fabric. It also hurt the life of the city because only rich people can live in this tower.
On this space here, we're protesting, right?
I don't think it's a demonstration. It's completely legal. It's tactical urbanism.
Tactical
okay?
urbanism,
Okay,
all right,
yes.
yeah.
Naama wants people to know that the spaces surrounding the city's growing number of high-rises are actually public. And Naama is letting her fellow citizens know one picnic at a time.
What could be done to this space to make it more used by the citizens?
All the towers should be designed differently. For example, if you build a new tower, you can put a cafe in this area, or benches, or tables, or maybe to put a Wi-Fi, or maybe a little kiosk. And then people will know that they can use it, and they are welcome.
Time to rent a bike. And I can see that number 14 is available. I'm out on the mean streets of Tel Aviv. And strangely, I'm going to be going to visit a car parking lot.
You made it.
I did.
This parking lot is the last opportunity for public space in Florentine.
Okay.
For a green public space in Florentine.
Hila Harel is a graphic designer and a very active citizen. Like many, she thinks that public spaces, especially green ones, are key to making Tel Aviv more livable, even if, in her neighborhood of Florentine, it may seem impossible.
Well, it's extremely small and it's very dense. It has to be one of the densest neighborhoods in Israel, not only in Tel Aviv.
Wow.
And it was built in the 20s as a workers' area, so it has very small plots. Almost all of the life in the neighborhood happens on the streets. There are a lot of bars, a lot of nightlife, but there are almost no public spaces.
Faced with such a glaring problem, residents of Florentine were thrilled when the city announced a master plan for citywide improvements. After massive public consultations promising increases in green spaces everywhere, what the city had in store was a disappointment, to say the least.
What the master plan does is add 60 millimeters of green space per person in the neighborhood.
There's 60 millimeters?
60 millimeters. It's like a stamp, basically. All of this effort, all of the money spent, all of the meetings, all of this for an additional 6 centimeters of public space per person. It's ridiculous.
This is a dog park?
Yes.
Dogs have parks in
The people-
Florentine. You gotta calculate how many square centimeters
For a
dogs have
dog,
and
yeah,
just throw
yeah.
that in the municipality, right? Finding out-of-the-box solutions is Gila's specialty. So she came up with a plan of her own. First move, convert this municipal parking lot into a park. Thanks to Gila, in a couple of years, the dogs won't be the only ones with a park around here.
There were a few stages because, first of all, we wanted to people understand what we were talking about. It's very hard to think of a park here when it doesn't exist, but when you see a picture, you're like, ah, I'd rather have this than this. And that's how people got on board. Now, this is the neighborhood. So this is where we are. Now, you can see all the rest of the plots are tiny. These are tiny little gardens between buildings. This is a public square. It's not going to be a green space. And this is what I mean when the city is not creative enough. They can create greener spaces. They can layer things on top of each other. They can make a little bit of a taller public building and make a bigger green space.
Where others see dead space, Gila sees opportunities. She spots the tiny gaps in the urban fabric, no matter how small, and she repurposes them, making the city greener and more livable. She even helped create one of Tel Aviv's first guerrilla community gardens on this once empty city lot. The garden is now used and cared for by neighbors, school children, and even patients at a nearby mental health hospital. She inspires others, and the community supports her in return, in surprising ways.
Almost every Saturday when we come to work, there's some surprise waiting for us there, and now there's a pallet. This one is a really good one because
Sturdy.
last week we found a bunch of bamboo sticks. Most of our chairs have been dumped here.
I mean, do people just sort of like dump a chair because they know that those weird people in the garden might use it?
Yes.
All right.
Definitely. Eventually, this will be some sort of a public building.
Okay.
In the meantime, we're trying kind of to make a statement by planting a lot of fruit trees. Hopefully, when they need this plot, they will find another solution.
You got a bouquet.
Because I'm taking this to a friend of mine who owns a bar and happened to move to his new apartment.
All I remember from that sentence is bar.
Good, because we're going to have a drink and eat.
Are we?
Yes. Hello!
So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking you're taking me to another car parking spot.
I am taking him to another car park.
Really?
But it's only a car park during the day.
Oh, wow.
You like this car park? Now, the trick is to park your bike on the farther side because this fills up during the night.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's a bicycle urbanist's like dream hearing that story. Parking lot and rundown shopping center by day, this space morphs into a stunning cultural place at night. Bar, radio station, performance space. Tel Avivians don't just sit there and wait for the perfect solution. They work with what they have and they come up with extremely original results. There's an increasing focus on green spaces in our cities, but it's only recently that we're taking a long, hard look at the blue, the rivers and lakes, the harbors and seafronts of our cities. They've been integral to urban life for millennia, but we've also treated them as sewers and garbage dumps. But a pristine aquatic environment is a key element in any life-size city.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. You look like you're really ready to go.
People need open spaces. Tel Aviv is an area where you have millions of people living very, very densely. Our real open space is the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. It should get more attention and conservation from now on. For many years, there was a construction materials dumping site just here at the north of the beach, and it's just piled up and was pushed into the sea.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. In the mid-2000s, like 2003 and onwards, there was a process of restoring this beach and turning it into a public park. You can see the grass, you can see the promenade, and you can walk all like free from Tel Aviv to this beach. And it's open.
Cleaning the beach and transforming it into a park is a great idea. Absolutely. But to Sarah, maintaining public access to blue spaces also means cleaning the sea itself. You have a group of volunteers here and you go out and dive.
We want to remove hazards and remove garbage out of the water. We operate regularly. We don't just do one thing and then disappear. We already dived here 4 times, so people are getting to know, and they're also attached to the beach.
I just realized your crew is completely gone.
Yeah, they're under the water.
I think you got to get ready too, don't you?
Yeah.
All right. It's a little bit quicker when you're just snorkeling, so I'm going to get ready too. So that is a lot of stuff we got there. What did you find?
Look, we found a fishing net.
Oh, yeah?
These rings, lots and lots of pipes.
There's a lot of construction materials. So that's what we found in the dives that we did here in the last year, which means they came from this pile that we were talking about before. Whatever we do in the beach is getting into the sea. Sometimes when we take garbage, we take some animals that were in the, trapped in the garbage, but we want to take them back fast into the water. So just, we never had an octopus rolling out of the garbage.
There's very few things that get me out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning anywhere in the world, but a little bit of old school urban activism is one of them. I'm gonna talk to some people who are gonna paint an illegal bus lane. Bus lanes should be legal. The city of Tel Aviv should be doing this themselves, but they're not. So these people are gonna just take a little piece of asphalt here in Tel Aviv and make a very important point, that we can move people more efficiently around the urban landscape for the future of transport in our cities. What is the problem here in Tel Aviv with moving people around?
Around 500,000 cars enter Tel Aviv every day. It's more than the population of Tel Aviv itself. Tel Aviv is rated last in the OECD in terms of bus lanes, the amount of buses per capita. The public transport is very slow and people don't choose to use it as much as they do in other cities in the world. What should happen is to have direct line to work areas and bus lanes.
It's not hard to see why cities around the world need people like Gil Yaakov, founder of the advocacy group called 15 Minutes. According to him, 15 minutes is the maximum amount of time a bus ride should take, considering Tel Aviv's small scale. We're on Ibn Gabarol, one of the city's major arteries. Gil and his crew are painting a makeshift bus lane right next to City Hall. I'd call that an efficient way of getting their attention.
Today the bus system is very complex, like a spaghetti. You have many stations and long routes, and also there aren't enough bus lanes. Only around 18% of the people use the bus to get to work. 18%. It's very low.
Your homies are painting the lane, but then a truck rolls up in the middle of the bus stop.
Because this is not a real bus lane. It's allowed to park on the bus lane until 8 in the morning.
But it's a bus stop. You shouldn't be able to stop in front of a bus stop either.
Exactly, yeah. There isn't a real network that is fluent and...
Which is kind of the whole purpose of public transport from the first day we had public transport was there was a network, right?
Exactly. Bus lanes that exist now are a result of pressures and the concept that here we can do a bus lane and here it's complicated. The shift that we're trying to do is to show the municipality that there's enough space because they don't see the parking as a lane. And so they could say, Ibn Gvirol, well, there are only 2 lanes, but then we show them there's a 3rd lane for parking. So you have enough space. Instead of cars, you want to give service to people. That's the most important thing.
And a bus, finally a bus in the bus lane. I've been waiting for that.
Exactly. But now it's going to go back to a regular lane.
I know.
Efforts are being made to turn the situation around. After years of broken promises, false starts, and discarded plans, work on the Tel Aviv light rail system has finally begun. The Red Line, 33 stations, 10 of which will be underground, is planned to open eventually. The green and purple lines are supposed to follow. Until then, Tel Avivians will have to be patient or rely on Gil's painting skills.
Tel Aviv has aspirations of becoming a bicycle-friendly city, and in the global context, they are ahead of the curve. But in order to take it to the next level, they need to do two things. One of them is do something about the electric bikes, the e-bikes, and especially the e-scooters. They have no place mixing with regular bikes, and they certainly don't belong on sidewalks. The second thing they need to do is to fix their infrastructure. It is a weird mix of different styles, different designs that don't really connect in any cohesive, intelligent way. Here you have a bike lane on the sidewalk, which they kind of painted. They just changed their mind in the middle of it. Here you have a bi-directional cycle track, which is not at all best practice in a city. Two things they can do to become a world-class bicycle city.
With its white beaches and blue sea, it's easy to forget that Tel Aviv sits smack dab in a hotbed of religious turmoil. But this is Israel, and here religion is everywhere, even at the bus stop, especially on Saturday.
We have removal of garbage on Saturday. We have everything on Saturday, but the public transportation.
And Saturday is Shabbat, the day of rest. Thanks to a handful of religious conservatives, public buses don't run in the streets of liberal Tel Aviv from Friday night to Saturday night. And Roy thinks the conservatives shouldn't dictate how the entire city spends its weekend.
We have a bit of clash of cultures. 80% of the people in Israel want it, and if you go in Tel Aviv, it's going to be 99% who want public transportation during weekends, during Shabbat. The only people that get hurt are the people who don't have money. And 2 years ago, we started to operate private buses as a non-profit organization in order to let people ride on Saturday.
You just started your own bus company, not-for-profit bus company.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Noat Nua, that means move forward, now runs 2 bus lines and can count on the goodwill of 50 volunteers to operate the private buses they rent. And the passenger fares cover the cost of the bus rentals. Roy plans to open a 3rd line soon.
So you just found a loophole and you just drove a bus right through it, right? That's so awesome, dude. Sitting at a bus stop in Tel Aviv on Shabbat is not a dumb idea when you know Roy, the bus man Roy.
Hi, my name is...
Hello. I was sitting at a bus stop, and I understand that was a pretty silly thing to do on Shabbat until Roy shows up, right?
Yes, it is.
Where are you going today?
To the beach.
And so the bus is your normal form of transportation?
The only form of transportation, really.
Yael lives with her daughter in the outskirts of Tel Aviv. She doesn't own a car, and she can't afford the taxi ride downtown. So before Roy created his Shabbat bus, they were basically stuck at home on weekends.
And how has this changed, your life?
Oh, completely. If you live close to Tel Aviv, in the surrounding cities, which are Ramat Gan, Givatayim, things like that, you're sort of trapped in a very nice city without anything to do on a Saturday.
Right.
So everything that there is to be done in Tel Aviv, like the main park of Tel Aviv, for instance, and everything.
And like
theater, movies, everything.
I mean, compared to other cities in Israel, are a lot of things open on Shabbat
There
in
is
Tel
one
Aviv?
city in Israel,
Yeah.
Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Roy's goal is clear. Even though his nonprofit is a hit, he actually dreams of going completely out of business. Because you know what? Running buses on Saturdays should be the city's job. Rising cost of living, public transport deficiency, conflicts between the vested interests of developers and citizens, these are very real problems. But more often than not, they're swept aside, considered less important than the cyclical religious and cultural struggles. Renowned Jewish architect Sharon Rothbard lives in Shapira, a historic neighborhood nestled between Jaffa and Tel Aviv. And hey, he doesn't need to walk far to see the real-life effects of his country's conflicted history.
Here we are in a part of the neighborhood which was annexed to Shapira neighborhood after the war of 48. So all those buildings are on top of the orchards, the orange groves of Jaffa.
Wow. What is this place? This looks absolutely fascinating.
This is an Arabic cemetery.
Yeah.
As you can see, it suffered a certain degree of vandalism. People came and started to peel all the marbles and stone.
That explains why it looks like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it was in a much fancier state.
Are there any records of who these people were?
Nothing. Everything that was existing before 48 was completely wiped out.
And that's the story Sharon wants to tell. His controversial book, White City, Black City, depicts the fact that the White City, namely Tel Aviv and its famous modernist architecture, wasn't built on barren land, as the official story goes, but on top of the Black City, Jaffa.
I would say that the Black City could be defined by all the places and the stories and the histories which didn't make it to the narrative of the White City. So places which do not make it into the books, they are endangered, they might be demolished or disappear one day.
And to prove that, a Palestinian village once stood right here. It was demolished to make way for bungalows. The only reminder of the past is a scar left on the land itself.
You see this layer of stone, it is called here krukar, it is a kind of a limestone. One of the differences between Jewish architecture and Arabic architecture here in this region is the fact that in order to build those kind of structures, you need to get rid of this layer of stone. In all the areas where you have a kind of a meeting point, you will have this line of section.
You can see that here. You can see how high it is here, and you can see how low the homes are.
What we see here, it is a kind of frontier.
Is that the central bus station?
Yes, and you see that they were so greedy about space and land, they had to cut here.
They just cut it, you can see that.
Yeah, they cut the vault, so you can see...
slice the building. We're building a bus station, we just chop things. Not even bulldozing, just slicing half the building up. Stupid, that building, it's bizarre.
It is quite difficult for me to be an architect when any act of construction or building is so charged with so many political significances.
Right.
The White City is defined clearly as the only place in Tel Aviv where you conserve buildings.
A lot of it is a tale of division, it is construction and destruction. But this is a city. Where do you go from here? When does the white and the black become a nice shade of gray?
I cannot but connect the story of Tel Aviv and Jaffa to the story of Israel and Palestine. As far as I can see, the White City is much whiter, it is much richer. The Black City is much weaker. In a sense, Tel Aviv is much more inclined to fulfill the desires of tourists. But I have the impression that the city is always a place of conflict. When we see the city, we see the results or the traces of those conflicts. So this is true for Tel Aviv, and of course it is true almost to any city that I know.
For all of Tel Aviv's bravado and the face it desperately tries to present to the world, this remains a divided and segregated city. I'm here in Jaffa, the bride of the sea, the former capital of Arab Palestine. This city has existed here for millennia. But ever since the new kid on the block showed up just over a century ago, Tel Aviv, this has become a symbol of the division inherent in the city. Mr. Abu Shindi, hello.
Hi, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm crazy about this place. I like it very much. So
You've lived here for many years? Or?
My family, we are living here since the 16th century.
Okay, what is it like living in this ancient city? How do you feel the contrast in your everyday life?
We are part of Tel Aviv Jaffa. And Tel Aviv Jaffa, if you compare it to other places, it's a city that is more, welcoming others. Christians, Muslims, and Jewish people are living together. Everybody are expecting and accepting each other. Tel Aviv is mostly, the majority are Jewish people. Here, it's something else. Here, it's a history. So living near, it's good because you have the budget of Tel Aviv Jaffa. Tel Aviv is a very rich city. So this is one thing that we are a part of Tel Aviv Jaffa. But the other part, this is something else. Tel Aviv is a new, Tel Aviv is a high buildings. Jaffa, you can build only 3 floors, which is like a village. It's very something else.
Ibrahim Abu Shindi is all for inclusiveness and peaceful cohabitation. But he's concerned with Jaffa's high-speed gentrification, which is quickly wiping out a large part of the Arab memory.
So tell me, Ibrahim, about the neighborhood we're in right now here in Jaffa.
This is the Ajami place, and this is Sharon Rothbard Street, which is the Jewish name, but most of the streets, they change the names to Jewish names. You can see an Arab family here, which means you see very poor place.
Yeah.
And they are living here. And they will come here and say, take $2-3 million, leave it. And they will build something like that. Or they renovate something like that. Once 90% of the people in Ajami were Arabs, Palestinians, and 10% were Jewish people. And now we are talking about something like 85 to 90% of them are Jewish people.
Okay.
They're very rich families. All the nice places you can see, it belong to the Jewish families, you know. You know the Za'atar?
Okay, I know, yeah. I
You know it?
Yeah. And in an old building, too. 400 years. Has it always been a bakery?
The best pitas in Jaffa. Bye-bye. العافية كيف حالكم؟ هذول من التلفزيون الكندي بفسر لهم شوي على الحي كيف كل الغنى صاروا يشتروا دور. لا بس مبيوعة. Oh, they already sell this space and they will build a building here. You know, they are sitting outside. They use, you know,
This looks nice.
public.
This looks nice.
But no, they will not continue.
Where will they sit and with their friends and drink tea after that?
Inside.
Inside.
بعدين صار كله تصفوف كله فوق بعض.
It wasn't like
كنا نشوف
there were so many
نشوف
buildings.
البحر من شباك وين الخنايا ستلمينا روح فرجيه هناك كيف ما كانش هناك كان احنا كنا هناك ساكنين وننزل على الدرج هذا العتيق ننزل طوالي على البحر اللي ما تشوفش بحر.
History is dying with not seeing the sea. History is dying with all the buildings, and history is dying with all the simple life that they had before. Shukran. Thank you. All of our mosques, churches, and schools are here, so we can't leave. Nobody will accept us in Tel Aviv. I can't move to Tel Aviv.
Wow.
Nobody will give me the opportunity to also to buy an apartment.
In reaction to the tough reality of his segregated city, Ibrahim co-founded the Arab Jewish Community Center in 1993, bringing the two communities together. Now a cultural meeting point catering to more than 3,000 members, it is supported by the municipality of Tel Aviv Jaffa.
As you see, people are using it. Those are two librarians. She's an Arab, Muslim, she is religious, and she's a Jew, she's new immigrant from Russia. Although we have a lot of problems, but on the other hand, we want to live here peacefully together, everybody, no matter who is who, and if you're Christian, Muslim, or Jewish people. That's the idea, how we can continue living without forgetting our history.
It seems everyone here is looking for a way to alleviate the conflicts that have defined Tel Aviv Jaffa's past and too much of its present. Luckily, there are people who won't let it define its future. People who are determined to raise a new generation for whom the old divides will mean very little.
Here. This looks festive.
Everything.
Actually, it's quite funny. It says Ramadan Kareem, but only in Hebrew.
All right, okay.
I got you.
This is like really lined up for a party here. Look at that, look at all the tables.
You're probably thinking the same as me. This looks like any community gathering anywhere in the world. But trust me, this one is very special. You see, Asaf, Zohar, and their two daughters are Jewish, in Jaffa. And we're here to celebrate Iftar, the evening meal after the daily Ramadan fast. And that's a Muslim tradition.
I'm originally from Jerusalem and I lived here for a while, but I was never invited or it was never expected of me to be part of this kind of event.
Jerusalem is a mixed city, but it is completely segregated. I grew up even in a left-wing family, but still I never had not one Palestinian friend in my life. I grew up in a completely Jewish ghetto. And then we found out that there is a possibility to live differently. There is a possibility in Jaffa for a community that is not segregated. We're trying to fit in. We're not trying to change anything.
Asaf and Zohar, along with the lovely people at this party, didn't want their kids to grow up in a bubble. So they founded a school, a mixed school, and that was not easy. Unfortunately, the education system is like the country itself, completely segregated. Here's the deal. The public schools are divided into different tracks, one for Orthodox Jews, one for secular Jews, and one for Palestinian Christians and Muslims. And they don't usually mix. Despite the endless red tape and incomprehension from the municipality, parents in this neighborhood have united to create the hand-in-hand kindergarten and school. in which 300 children of all backgrounds now learn about the world together.
So the segregation of schools in Israel based on nationality, is it forced?
Theoretically, you can enroll your child in every school, but the Jewish school system is only fit for Jewish children. The entire school year revolves around Jewish holidays. In the Arab schools, you have, obviously it's still under the Israeli control, but you have different holidays. And here in Hand in Hand, we're celebrating holidays of all religions. We have Christmas, we have Passover, and we have Ramadan, Iftar.
This itself is like a very avant-garde idea here. I mean, people are...
Really?
Yeah, because it's like either you're this or you're that.
The children are growing up together. They're learning together in the same classroom, same kindergarten. One of them is speaking Hebrew, and the other is speaking Arabic.
In the same class?
Same class, two teachers.
They're completing each other's sentences.
So they learn both languages naturally, organically. Then when Ruth came back from the kindergarten, she said, I'm Hudi and my friend is Muslim, which is Muslim. And then I understand that Hudi is Yahudi, which is Jewish in Arabic.
Okay.
She was referring to herself as Jewish in Arabic.
Oh, that's cool.
And she was able to recognize her own identity, her friend's identity in his language. It doesn't need to be a zero-sum game. It's not like if we gain, the Palestinians lose. There is a place for all of our identities, all of our nationalities, all of our religions can be together. The children are our future. Even if we fail as ourselves to change reality, this we are raising children who are different than us, who weren't raised in this Jewish ghetto, knowing only people who are like them. This is the Middle East. People here are Arabs, they're speaking Arabic, they're Muslims, they're Christians, they're also Jewish. And she won't be a foreigner, she won't be a stranger to that. She will be growing up inside it, without giving up her own identity. This is the part where doing the selection when only Muslims can eat, because they are the ones who are fasting, so they can...
But they can't eat yet, it's like still 4 minutes to go.
They are preparing the plates. We need to make sure that there's no any Jew just sneaking in, trying to steal some food before it is done. So this is, we're waiting for them.
I mean, I would totally pile up my plate so it was in front of me at 7:49 when I get this. Yeah.
This is what they're doing right now. And
it doesn't stop.
It's only one table.
It's the first table, God.
Started in Yad B'Yad 5 years ago. We were few families. And now you look how much more than 500 people here we have.
Najib is Christian and Arab, and his daughter just finished first grade at Hand in Hand School, learning in both Arabic and Hebrew. It's amazing, but this project is so much more than a school and a kindergarten. Najib, Asaf, Zohar, and all the parents here have created a deep and much-needed sense of community.
So if it wasn't for the kindergarten and the school and events like this, would you be friends?
I don't know, because maybe we couldn't meet. Yeah, but now we are in a big community, and the community started before the kindergarten. We had a small community, we make it a kindergarten and then the school, and then we grow, and we know now a lot of people that we didn't know and we didn't meet before. It's a very special place. Yeah.
You're gonna need a bigger courtyard in a couple of years. Yeah.
We will need. We'll find.
Yeah.
The evening ends with a poignant moment as everyone takes fanus, the traditional Muslim lanterns, onto the streets of Jaffa. Men with kippahs walk side by side with women wearing headscarves. I don't know if such vast conflicts have ever been resolved through small actions, but I can tell you that this one certainly gives me hope.
So is this an unusual thing that Jews and Arabs are doing this together?
Unfortunately, yes. It's kind of unique for such a community to exist. For me, it's a huge beacon of hope.
I got a little bit of ink that I hope you can help me with. This old map of Jaffa from, I think, the 1920s.
Cool.
I have like a tattoo with different cities, sort of making my own urban map. This is a section of it that I drew myself here. So you can like walk from Medellin and
to Jaffa,
through Jaffa and
back to Paris.
Yeah, back to Paris and go for a coffee in Montreal. What I wanted as like a logo, as in the middle of the town, a graphic detail. It'll be like the Arabic for Jaffa.
I don't know what you would choose, Tel Aviv or Jaffa. In the urban context, Tel Aviv is the new kid on the block, a little over a century old, a bit of a rowdy teenager. Jaffa, on the other hand, older brother, perhaps, more experienced, storied streets. So I'm going with Jaffa. But both of these cities, despite the challenges, complement one another. They feed off one another. And that has to continue. Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Sure, thank you.
Pleasure. Cool. I will never truly understand the complex, multi-layered aspects of this place. But I am fascinated by Tel Aviv and by Jaffa. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote that everyone wants progress, but no one wants change. Indeed, our cities are engaged in a constant tug of war between a comfortable status quo and future urban development. Here, there are many ropes in play between the citizens and the city and the state, the white city and the black. I don't know how the game will end, but I do know that Tel Aviv and Jaffa remain a safe harbor with a shining lighthouse, signaling hope to their region, but also to cities around the world.